How do you choose the right partner and make sure they're a healthy match for you and that your relationship adds more to your life than it takes away? What makes a relationship healthy or toxic? What makes you ready to be in a relationship, and what are the core qualities that need to be present naturally versus what are the things worth fighting and compromising for? In all of my videos so far, we've been talking about dealing with triggers and traumas and diving into this emotional healing journey so that we could learn and develop self love and inner peace. And of course, all of those concepts are about your relationship with yourself. The most important relationship you'll ever have, of course, but in this video, I want to talk about choosing appropriate relationships with other people and maintaining healthy relationship dynamics. Largely, I'll talk about it in the context of romantic relationships, but it's not exclusively about that. This stuff will apply to any relationship you're in, whether it be with friends or family or lovers. But if we're going to be talking about romantic relationships, I suppose it's only fair to be honest that I've been single for quite some time now. But I don't think that that's because I don't understand healthy relationships. In fact, I actually think it's largely because I do understand what it takes to form a healthy relationship, which makes me less willing to settle into anything that isn't truly right for me. And I simply have not had the good luck of finding and meeting the right person. So, when it comes to assessing a healthy relationship and choosing healthy relationships, the first concept I want to talk about here is what it means to be toxic. Obviously, that's a strong buzzword these days that most people attach to the most narcissistic, gaslighting type of people, those who lie and manipulate you and who tear you down, whether intentionally or not. And yeah, I think that's a huge part of it, but I also think there's a much simpler core ingredient to what makes a person or a relationship toxic that we should be mindful of because it's really a much lower bar of entry than you might think. Personally, I describe someone or some relationship as toxic when they or that relationship makes you feel bad for simply being and expressing the most authentic version of yourself. Learning self love and learning how to express ourselves authentically is hard enough as it is. And being made to feel from another person like our most authentic, caring, and passionate selves isn't acceptable is torturous. And having been made to feel like that version of ourselves wasn't acceptable is basically where the root of most of our core trauma comes from. In regular circumstances, of course. Throughout our lives, it's usually the little things that add up that made us stop being who we truly were and that made us build a false ego self formed around fear and defense mechanisms. A version of ourself that was designed to protect the core self, the one that was scared, afraid, and hurt underneath it all. Hurt from judgment and criticism, from all of the times that our parents punished us for expressing ourselves or asking for love, or the times that we were told that we weren't good enough, or the times when friends made fun of the things we liked and said that our dreams and goals were stupid, or the times when opening up to a romantic partner about something that meant a lot to us led to rejection or betrayal. These are the things that taught us over the years that we are not safe to be and express ourselves. And I think that a healthy relationship, a core ingredient of it, is that it's one where you can feel safe letting that core version of yourself shine. It's the place where that version of you that you have been made to feel isn't acceptable feels safe, feels seen and heard and appreciated for being nothing other than what it is. Without that ingredient in a relationship, you may be able to find or build a working partnership with someone, but I think there will always be something lacking. So, avoiding toxic dynamics where you are made to feel bad for simply being and expressing your core authentic self, this is probably the biggest and most important piece of finding a healthy and truly loving relationship. Of course, this presents a bunch of different challenges. One of which is that, as I said, the goal is to make sure that your true, core, and genuinely authentic self is never made to feel bad for being and expressing itself. But it takes a massive amount of inner work to discover who that core, authentic self is and to make sure that that's the version of you that is expressing itself and looking for love and approval in that moment. I mean, can we expect ourselves to never be made to feel bad for expressing ourselves if what we're expressing is coming from fear and anger and hatred and a lifetime's worth of defense mechanisms that we don't know that we're succumbing to? Even if we have the most loving and emotionally mature partner in the world, and even if they speak to us in the most emotionally healthy way all of the time, if we are expressing ourselves from fear and anger and hatred, then those parts of ourselves are going to take issue with someone expressing their core authentic selves to us and someone expressing their boundaries to us. We are going to get defensive about it, and it's not going to work out. If someone is bigoted and racist, for example, would we still say that a healthy relationship is one that never makes them feel bad for being bigoted and racist? Like, if someone in the most healthy, compassionate, and mature way confronts me for being bigoted, isn't it likely that I am going to feel bad about it, even if they said it in the most loving and careful way? I will get defensive because that bigotry is covering something up. Bigotry is founded on hate and fear. So how can we create a relationship that's based on love and acceptance if the qualities that we're looking to be loved for and accepted for are founded in fear and hate? There's a paradox there. It's like multiplying a positive number by a negative number. The sum always ends up being negative. So hate, being the negative number, combined with love for that hatred, still always ends up being a negative. So personally, I don't believe that a truly healthy and loving relationship can ever fully be attained by people carrying that kind of anger and hatred in their hearts. But of course, we're talking about an ideal relationship here. I'm sure you can find many seemingly working relationships that are based on two people's shared hatred of the same things. But I would argue that there is certainly something missing there, and that a relationship founded on that, or a relationship that even includes that at all, will never be a truly healthy one. Anyways, point being, figuring out whether or not someone is toxic to you requires you first figuring out whether the things you are trying to express and to be loved for are coming from fear and anger or genuine love and passion. Because if you constantly blame others for not supporting your worst and most hateful qualities and you call them toxic because they won't accept that and because they will call you out on it, well, that's when you end up in extreme narcissism and you become toxic yourself. There is a particular politician right now who I won't name who believes that everyone who criticizes him is deranged. And that is because this kind of person cannot even fathom the idea that anything they do is wrong. So that's the core of narcissism right there. So, getting back on track, if you need to be somewhat aware of your core personality and aware of your good traits versus your bad traits in order to identify what counts as toxic in the first place, that brings up the question of whether you need to wait until you're healed and whole to truly know and love yourself before getting into a relationship, or whether healing should be done in a relationship. Do you need to heal before being in one, or can you heal while in one? Well, I think there's a balance to be found here. On the one hand, someone who truly doesn't know and love and respect themselves is going to find it hard, near impossible even, to maintain a healthy relationship. Maybe not in the way that you think. Like some people say that no one can love you until you love yourself. I don't think that that's quite true. I think that actually, very often, the problem is the opposite. It's that someone absolutely can love you when you don't love yourself, but receiving love from someone else when you don't accept yourself and love yourself is painful and uncomfortable, so you'll end up sabotaging that relationship, whether directly or indirectly. When someone loves you more than you love yourself, they will try to help you break through that barrier, either knowingly or unknowingly. They will give you a level of care, compassion, and attention that currently doesn't feel natural for you. And whether you recognize that as being a positive kind of love or not, what they are giving you as positive or not, internally, it'll irk you. And you'll have a knee-jerk reaction to push it away. It'll feel icky to you. Someone giving you real love and compassion. Ooh, no, I don't love myself. Deep down, I don't believe that I'm worthy of love and compassion. And therefore, when you give that to me, I'm gonna resist it. You'll notice this in yourself if maybe you have a tendency to use sarcasm as a way of keeping people at arm's length, or you find romance and genuine compassion as unappealing. Like I've heard some women online say that they get turned off when a man asks them how their day was, just as an example. They find it unattractive when a man seems to genuinely care. And that is a sign that intimacy feels uncomfortable to you. You're not ready for a deep connection, and the idea of truly opening up to someone is triggering unresolved issues inside yourself. It's a defense mechanism. You only want a person who will see and care about the superficial, top layer version of yourself. But anyone looking to get past that, well, it feels like an invasion or a violation. And of course, that's not a gender specific thing. Many men, if not more so, I don't know, equally feel uncomfortable letting anyone get past the superficial parts of their personality. I wasn't implying that men or women are better or worse at this. In that regard, we won't compare the genders here. It's just the example that came to my mind in that moment. Either way, someone who feels uncomfortable letting others get past the surface layer will push their partner away when they try to build anything real. They'll blame and guilt and shame their partner for trying to form a deeper connection, and this will create intensely toxic dynamics. So, there is a certain amount of self-awareness and self-acceptance that needs to be in place before you can even hope to create a genuinely healthy relationship. But at the same time, it really is the case that relationships will trigger us and challenge us immensely. I've personally managed to find a lot of peace and strength in the solitude of my own life right now, and I'm very aware that opening up my life to someone else will be a challenge. I'm hoping for it, I'm looking for it, but learning how to share our lives and our space, both our physical space and our emotional space, with someone else is far more challenging, emotionally speaking, than learning to live on our own. As we've spoken about in past videos, a huge portion of this emotional mastery thing is about learning how to feel safe in our hearts and our minds and our bodies, and building emotional strength is about confronting bigger triggers and challenges, lifting the heavier and heavier emotional weights. Well, you can live for years in seemingly complete inner peace, and then when someone else enters your life, it triggers wounded parts of you you never knew were there. It's like you weren't getting the opportunity to lift the heavier and heavier weights. There were only so many weights that were being presented to you when you were on your own. It's kind of in the same way that there are parts of yourself that you can't scratch on your own. There are certain elements of your personality that won't get triggered for healing when you're living on your own. You're limited to what will be brought up inside of you to give you the ability to confront it when you are in your own personal bubble. Only in the context of interpersonal relationships and dynamics will you be faced with certain triggers that allow you to confront certain unhealed things within yourself. That means that we have to expect any healthy relationship to push us deeper into our triggers and challenges and to move us towards further inner work and personal growth. I really don't think there's any way to be in a truly healthy relationship without needing to sometimes confront our own triggers, to handle our emotions properly, and to have the strength needed to feel through our pain and communicate our issues without protecting that inner self quite as much and without projecting our anger out onto our partner. It's a challenge. It will always be a challenge. So you need a certain amount of self-awareness and self-love to be able to enter into a potentially healthy relationship to begin with, but you should expect a lot of healing to be done in relationships. And you should cherish the opportunity to progress on your inner healing journey through the challenges that are brought up in that interpersonal relationship dynamic. This is why emotional fitness training is so crucial to being able to maintain a healthy relationship in the long term. If you don't learn how to handle your emotions and turn your triggers into opportunities to heal, you will unintentionally sabotage your relationship. Or at least you'll create problems unintentionally because you're resisting dealing with your emotions properly, and you will make your emotions the other person's problem, and you'll put up barriers and you won't express yourself, and it will lead to all kinds of issues. So, if finding love and a healthy relationship is important to you, I truly think there's nothing more important than developing your own emotional fitness. But really, none of that is what really inspired this video and what I actually wanted to talk about. I matched with a woman today on a dating site, and one of the first things she asked me was, what are the core things you think two people need to share in a relationship versus things that are not so important? And that's really what I wanted to dive into here. I've had an interesting mix of serious long-term or semi-long-term relationships in my life. I had my high school girlfriend who, to this day, was probably the overall sweetest relationship that I've had. Maybe things are just easier when you're young and entrenched in the same community with the same values and the same background and all of that. Or maybe I just got lucky to have such a pure love at a young age. Then I had a relationship in college, which was never really an official relationship and definitely had some tumultuous elements to it because she was always back and forth between me and her ex at the time. But it was a lovely relationship overall that turned into one of my longest lasting friendships to this day. Then during my law school years, I had a relationship with someone who, from almost day one, I could tell that the relationship just wasn't right. It didn't feel right. But every time I tried talking to her about it in a healthy and mature way, she would cry and blame me for not giving her a chance or for not trying to make it work or for not loving her as much as she loved me. I tried having that conversation with her 6 days in, and that's what happened. She started crying. And I'm not blaming her. We were both young. Neither of us were perfect at the time. We were both working through our personalities and our issues. So it's not like she was wrong and I was right. We both played our roles in this. But the point is that I spent 3 years in that relationship battling with this question of what are the core elements of a relationship that need to just be there versus what are the elements that are worth compromising for. I was in a period in my life where I was questioning in many ways whether I could and should follow my heart and my instincts and my person and purpose and my passion, my authentic self, or whether I should stuff parts of that away to just find something practical. That's why I was in law school in the first place. I had given up on being me and just chose something that would be pragmatically beneficial. But in the long run, I just couldn't lie to myself. It was never right. Neither law school nor that relationship. So that was that. And then I had another relationship in 2016 to 2018 or so that was far too complicated to talk about in this video, but I'm sure I'll tell you about it some other time. It was crucial in me finding my path to this inner healing and to the work that I do now, but it's just way too deep a story to get into. Point is, throughout those and other shorter relationships along the way, I've had the opportunity to really investigate this question of what elements of a relationship can be achieved through work and mutual compromise versus what parts just need to be there. So when this woman today asked me what core ingredients two people need to share, my mind first went to a list of pretty practical things. Core values, for example, including shared political views and religious beliefs. After all, if you're constantly clashing over those fundamental life issues, there's sure to be a lot of tension, especially if you're going to have kids and decide how to raise them. These days especially, like I've never been a highly political person, but the world is widely divided into pretty big extremes right now, and a fundamental disagreement about politics is kind of really a fundamental disagreement about humanitarian concerns and core ideas of right versus wrong. So it seems unlikely that we could be able to maintain a relationship through staunch disagreements on those topics. I also thought of things like shared interests. These don't need to completely overlap, of course. You don't need to have 100% all the same things in common, but I've experienced what it's like to have a relationship where you just don't really share anything in common. And if you can't find pleasant ways to pass your time together in ways that are enjoyable for both parties, there are going to be problems. Or there's the issue of having shared dreams and goals about the kind of life you want to live. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Because if your vision is drastically different from mine, then how do we make this work? Those are all things that I think on paper would seem to be important to choosing a relationship. But last year I dated a woman for about 3 months who, on paper, we seemed to fit in most of those things. All of that was more or less in place. Maybe not perfectly, definitely not perfectly, but more so than in other relationships I've had that I enjoyed more. So at least on paper, I could have made an argument for it being a worthy relationship, and yet there was just no real love there. It wasn't a good fit. So while I think that core values and interests and life goals and stuff like that are high on the list of things you'd want to find in a partner, I think that true love in a healthy relationship comes down to a short list of far simpler, more intangible qualities that can't be rationalized or analyzed from the outside. Like, sometimes people will ask people in a relationship, "Oh, why do you love them?" And I think that's a ridiculous question. I don't think there's ever a clear, tangible, rational answer to it. I think that love is something deeper, more innate than any logical answer can give, and when you ask someone that question, they just end up being forced to rationalize an answer, to come up with one that doesn't truly express the real root of where their love comes from. They're using logic after the fact to justify how they feel, but it's not really the reason they feel that way. So, I think that true love and a healthy relationship really comes down to three simple things: vibe, respect, and communication. First up, vibe. Completely intangible and indescribable. You might find someone with completely different beliefs and different hobbies and different goals, and yet something about you and them together just clicks. Their energy, attitude, or even their smile just lights you up in ways you can't really describe or understand. There's a comfort there, a sense of being at home, a sense of feeling completely safe in their presence in a way that you don't feel elsewhere. And when that is present, so many of the other on-paper things just go out the window. Second up, respect. What I mean here is the ability to fully see and feel seen by the other person as the full version of yourself, and to know that there is mutual respect and admiration there. This goes back to what I was saying earlier regarding what it means to be toxic. And I'm basically pointing out now the flip side to that. The flip side to someone being toxic to you, where they make you feel bad for being and expressing your core authentic self, is someone who makes you feel truly safe for being and expressing your core self. That is absolutely invaluable, and there is no replacement for it. When someone can see the parts of you that no one else can see, and lets you know, consciously or not, that those parts of you are accepted, that opens up so many doors that nothing rational or logical can ever accomplish or replace. And lastly, there is communication. Like I said, relationships will trigger and challenge us. There's no way around that. And if you and your partner don't have a similar way of communicating, and you can't make yourself heard and understood by the other person, that even the most beautiful love in the world that has those first two things that I just talked about won't survive the trials and tribulations of trying to fit another person into your life. So ultimately, I think that's what a healthy relationship comes down to in my mind: vibe, respect, and communication. When you have those three pieces of the puzzle in place, you might discover that none of the other on-paper stuff really matters. You may discover a star-crossed lover who shares nothing in common with you, and it doesn't matter. You might discover things about yourself that you never knew were there. You might discover a whole new version of yourself that you never knew you could be, and maybe all of your priorities and goals will change. That love may take your whole life in a completely new direction you never expected or imagined, and personally, I'm open to that. Now, I'm not saying that you should change yourself to find love, but I'm saying that you might find that love changes you, and that might be the most beautiful thing that you ever experience. So, my recommendation is to keep working on yourself. Do the inner work to be best prepared to find and or maintain a relationship, and get your mind out of the way. Stop trying to analyze and rationalize whether a relationship or a potential partner on a dating site, for example, matches your exact list of who you thought you would marry or whatever. Or if you're in a relationship, stop trying to write it all out and see, well, does that person match all of those things? Go by what it feels like. I mean, sure, we have to have some criteria for picking matches in the first place, but try to stay open to the idea of being surprised by love instead of thinking that you can plan for it. But still, as I mentioned, even the strongest and most perfect love won't survive the trials and tribulations of opening yourself up to someone if you don't have the emotional skills and tools necessary to confront your own emotions, to handle your own triggers, and to express yourself lovingly, patiently, and confidently. So, if you want to be prepared to find and maintain a healthy relationship with the love of your life, the key is to become emotionally fit within yourself. And if you're looking for help achieving this kind of emotional mastery in record time without needing to get bogged down in chasing down and analyzing past trauma, if you just want to learn how to love yourself and live in confidence and inner peace and be able to handle any trigger that comes your way, you can visit my website, www.benjisharocoaching.com, and schedule a call with me. Because this is exactly what my emotional fitness training program is all about. And I will literally guarantee that it will change your life, or I will give you every penny back. And if you want to learn a little more about what it takes to master yourself on this journey of emotional fitness, check out this video over here, where I discuss how to stop getting triggered in the first place and the difference between confronting your emotions versus confronting your triggers. I'll see you there.